Alright, so today we got another time-lapse video. This one is a request from MegaPieman PhD for his map Payload Midwest. My name is Zeus. Let's go. Alright, so I'll just be doing another voiceover here. And so, right off the bat, what we're doing is we're using the default cube here, actually, and putting a subsurf modifier in here. The first thing I do is establish the stitch here because I want to make sure that that's something that's going to be somewhat pronounced in the final thing. So I want to get the topology of that right off the bat. So here I am trying to define that edge a little bit and just trying to get the big shapes here, flatten out the bottom a little bit to try and make it feel like it's got some weight to it, some stuff inside of it. So right now it looks a bit like a suitcase, so obviously I want it to be more bulbous than this, so building up the basic shapes here. If you actually look at like a reference of a grain sack, it's like all the grain kind of, most of it collects at the bottom, so it's usually more bulbous down there. So here I actually realize I don't have enough topology for what I want to do, so I need to add some more loop cuts in here and start beefing it up, fattening it up a little bit. And so here I'm using the proportional editing tool quite a bit to try to get more of a round shape for everything. Instead of moving individual vertices, it moves like a group around it, so you can get more of a organic shape by using it. So here I'm using it quite a bit to try and like fold stuff in and out of the topology here. And here I'm messing with the subsurf modifier, and I actually realize that I have too many polygons going, so I add a decimate modifier to try and reduce that. It's definitely good to keep your eye on that stuff, sooner than later, because as I continue adding polygons on here, I want to be sure I'm not making a super high poly model that's just gonna suck to render on the engine. So always keeping your eye in the corner of the screen for the triangle count. So here again, I'm just trying to build up the shape here a little bit with the proportional editing tool, and actually realizing that I need to, I guess, exaggerate the proportions quite a bit here. So, trying to stretch things a little bit, but looking at my reference image there. So that's actually a built-in valve asset. And so I'm trying to, I guess, emulate some of the shape that it has. And so now here is a bit of an experiment that I tried. So there's a sphere transform tool, I guess is what it's called. So I tried to see if I could use that to make things a little bit more cylindrical, but it just ended up making it look like an M&M. So here I'm extruding the top to create this like folded effect, like the top is folded over. And so adding some loop cuts here to I guess strengthen the sides there of the subsurf, so it kind of defines the edge a little bit better. So again, still making stuff a little bit more round as I go along, and really it's just an iterative process of just continually refining stuff and continually to get more of a shape. So it's feeling a lot less suitcasey now, so that's it's progress, right? So I'm really trying to define that edge because really to sell the illusion that it's like folded over, you really got to you really have to have that edge be fairly sharp. So adding a number of loop cuts there for that. And here again, making stuff just more bulbous, so it's like if you actually put a bunch of stuff in here, like the bottom would be kind of more fold than the top. And so here also folding down the side there, so I can make it feel like a little bit more organic, that it's not just a very uniformed rim there. And so here I actually when I extruded the top, I actually messed up my edge flow a little bit. So here I'm assigning everything to a vertex group so I can manipulate it later if I want to. So now I'm just trying to make it not look too much like a butt, I guess, and then obviously on the bottom it's going to be a lot more flat, so just flattening out the edge there on the bottom, because if it's laying on the ground, it's like you're probably not going to see it very well, and also it's the seam there is going to be a lot flatter, I guess, so way less pronounced. So again here just shaping things up a little bit, comparing it to my reference, and if you actually look at like maybe a pillowcase or any kind of like sack like this, actually the contents will actually fill up on the edges there, and so they'll you'll have these kind of sharper corners. And so here the extrusion I did actually messed up my topology a little bit, so here I'm just coming in and dissolving these edges, and yeah, this is probably not the best way of doing this, but I don't want to undo all the progress I had, so I'm doing a little bit of mesh surgery here, so it actually turns out fine. This it does get a little bit weird here, but it's actually just fine. I actually end up adding a triangulate modifier, so it the subsurf and the decimate modifier, they have a little bit of issues with it, but yeah, that triangulate, and it seems to resolve it. So thankfully I didn't have to undo a bunch of steps, because I actually really am starting to like the shape I'm getting here. And here just messing with the top a little bit more, trying to refine that a little bit, and yeah, just cleaning up the dirtiness I created there. So really this is about it for the modeling part. So I'm actually pretty pleased with how this turned out. This is the first time I've done something that's not like hard surface, so making an organic shape has been interesting. So here I duplicate my mesh so that I can apply the modifiers and then do a UV unwrap. And here I actually use a tool called UV Pack Master, which is it's like $20, and it allows me to like automatically pack my meshes onto my UV map onto a UV map. So it gets pretty good texel density for me, so I really like it, and it saves me a lot of time when doing these things. So it's probably hard to paint these things in Photoshop like that, but so thankfully I have Substance Painter to help me out. So here we are in Substance Painter, and of course the first thing you do is you bake your mesh maps, and then I add my ambient occlusion that I multiply over the entire texture, and then I add a linear gradient that goes from the bottom to the top to try to draw your eye towards like the middle. And so here I'm testing out a built-in texture from Substance called burlap. So I'm trying to get a good burlap, I guess, texture going. So I'm looking at some other inside TF2 references here. So pulling up some other grain sacks, I guess. So here I'm messing with some of the settings, and so Substance it really tries to get it really goes for the PBR workflow. So you want like hyper realism, but for TF2 you really don't need that, or actually you probably don't even want that. So here I'm actually trying to make stuff a little bit more cartoony, if you will, a little bit less realistic. And so here I'm actually not liking how this is tiling right now, so I'm messing with the how it projects onto the mesh, to try and get it so it looks like a real burlap sack. So again, it's always a little bit of experimentation here to try and get what you want. So here I'm actually looking at the the actual mask that it produces. So it's just a black and white thing that tells it where it should draw stuff. And so it helps you visualize a little bit better what you're actually doing, instead of just looking at the diffuse here. So also reducing the other details that burlap texture had. So there was like a grunge noise that was, I guess, supposed to add dirt, but I reduced that quite a bit there. And so here I'm adding a placeholder for my This will be a placeholder for the logo, so adding the font here. And fonts in Substance are very, very finicky to use. It seems like something that they really could do a lot better with. So, I'm building up a little placeholder here just to see, what this is going to look like, so I can get an idea of what I actually want the end result to look like. So, just trying to position things well and messing with my masks here a little bit. So, reducing the size here and then realizing, well, this thing is tiling across the whole thing, so maybe I need to be a bit creative here with how I do my mask. So, I'm trying to position things, but, then I realize that I can just add another paint layer onto the mask and then just do like linear dodge on it so that it just like masks out all the stuff that I don't want. So then the logo just appears on like one side. And one of the great things about Substance is you can just select things like by face or by triangle. So that's actually what I'm doing here. And it's really handy instead of just like, manually painting like with a paintbrush. So here I just revealed the logo and so that's basically what I want. So then I can kind of position this thing with that, those little sliders there. And so that's kind of what I'm going for. So in GIMP now I pull up an existing texture that I'm going to try to, replicate the style of here. So, of course the font selection is always the hardest part of this process. So, here I'm trying to find similar enough fonts that I can use. So I actually changed my mind a lot about the bread font. I guess I'm pretty indecisive about it. But it's always about like, just testing stuff, seeing if you like it, and be able to change your mind throughout the process. I also pull in I guess this is like a wheat stem, I guess you would call it. But just trying to get that wheat shape, I guess, on here. So because red bread, I guess bread made from wheat, so obviously you want the wheat there. So let's count how many times I changed the bread font here. So now I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna like incorporate this leaf guy here. So scaling him down to kind of more match the scale of the text here. And so really what I'm trying to do inside of GIMP here is actually produce a mask so that I can use that in Substance. So Substance really, they work really well with masks. So instead of just like, giving it exactly the logo that I want, I actually just give it a black and white image so I can mess with this further inside of Substance if I decide to do so. So here trying to match the aliasing of the text as well so that it doesn't look as out of place. And here I change the font one more time, and this is what I'm actually very pleased with. So this is what I keep. So I export it so that I can bring it into Substance here and replace the one that I have, my little placeholder there. So bring it in as an alpha, and again, same process as before. But immediately I like this so much better than obviously my placeholder. This really makes it feel like it's part of TF2. So, with the red, I guess, typography there, and it's really crazy how like some details like that can really make or break something, right? So here, just following the same process I did before of doing like a additive mask here. So. You're just masking off stuff that I don't want, and then I just set the color up the way that I want it. So now here I'm trying to like emulate, I guess, a stitching pattern that would follow along that seam to make it, more believable that it's actually like a seam, like it's a burlap sack that was stitched there. And I actually decided not to go with the like painting on the normal channel because I feel like that would be a little bit overkill. And I think just putting this on the diffuse is fine. It's subtle enough that you don't really need you don't need a ton of detail on that to kind of get the point across. And so here I'm importing a grain texture I also made for Payload Midwest. So this was a texture I made completely in Substance Designer, and I'm actually pretty happy with how that texture turned out. So I thought I would reuse it here. So, kind of the idea of Midwest is it's this payload map where Red has a spy tech base where they're doing some evil stuff in there, and their front is a granary kind of thing. So the name that Mega Pie Man's going with is Midwest Mills. So naturally they'd have probably sacks of grain sitting around. So so here is that grain sack, I guess, is kind of the idea here. So here I'm actually the colors don't quite fit what I want it to be, so I'm reducing some of the saturation here a little bit of the luminosity to kind of more match the, I guess, aesthetic of the grain sack itself. And also, really, if there was a grain in there, it would be somewhat occluded just by natural, like the light around it, not really hitting as well as the outside. So desaturating a little bit actually does make a little bit of sense here. Also reducing the size and turning off the normal channel so it doesn't look as like it doesn't need that much detail. And so yeah, really just setting up the color here so it more matches everything. Also playing with a little bit of blur to see if I can blur the edges a little bit, and actually end up redoing the mask here a few times, and that blur really doesn't get me what I want, unfortunately. And I actually decide that this is fine the way it is. It's TF2. It's not like it doesn't need to be super realistic or anything. So so now we're back in Blender, so I can finish the last bit of modeling here for the collision mesh. So thankfully it's mostly just going to be a box because it's very boxy in shape. So just trying to get a good wrap around here. Nothing too fancy, nothing too difficult there. Here I'm setting up my exports. So this is always the most tedious part of the whole process, is getting all the materials named correctly and all the meshes named correctly and setting up all the files you need. So and then in here exporting some stuff out of Substance. So I actually did a little bit of off-camera stuff, forgot to hit record, and added a couple other textures on here. But I followed the same process I did before, so it's nothing too profound there. So I'll end up having 4 skins for this. So so 2 blue and 2 red skins. So here I'm setting up my QC file, which is the file you needs for to tell Crowbar how to actually compile something. Here I'm trying to decide what surface property it would have, because it's not like, it's grain, but it's not like, it's like a grain sack, so it's like, so I just go with default. Not really sure if I should change that or not. It probably doesn't matter either way, but yeah, so here just defining all the skins that I need, and just trying to get everything in engine first. So here doing my exports from Blender into here, firing up Crowbar, setting up my compile. Again, this is very tedious and a bit time consuming to do, but once you get it kind of all set up, then you can iterate on it pretty quickly. So here I actually didn't have things grouped correctly in Blender, so changing that up a little bit here, setting up my materials so that I actually get a real texture on here. So renaming everything so it matches and how it's supposed to be. So I actually have this issue when I try to import stuff in VTF edit. It seems to make stuff lower resolution than I want it for some reason. So I actually will end up opening up the texture inside of GIMP and just exporting it from there instead. And of course here I forgot to actually edit my VMT file, so here I am, setting that up. Yeah, so here it's just lower fidelity than I want it to be. So I actually end up exporting it out of Blender instead. Or sorry, GIMP here instead. And so yeah, there you can see that there's a bit of a resolution change there. So So yeah, now exporting all my different textures here. So all my skins. So I got the Midwest skin, so that's kind of thematic for this map. And then I also have a blue corn skin, because I guess blue makes the corn, red makes the wheat. I don't know. There seems to be some other blue corn assets out there, so I figured I'd follow that suit. I also made one called blue cheese, and there's actually this cheese, I guess, material on the Substance website, so I thought it'd be a fun little like Easter egg to say like, oh, it's blue cheese, as if, you know, Blue owns like a creamery or something, which is a great idea for a map if anyone, you know, wants to take that theme on. You know, call it blue cheese or something. You know, so here just pulling everything into the engine here and testing out how everything looks. So got my skins all loaded up. You know, rearranging the order here, so you know, probably makes it a little bit more sense to people, you know, using the thing. Here I actually need to modify my collision mesh a little bit, because I forgot to apply the transform, so it's a little weird looking, so it doesn't quite line up as it's supposed to. So here you'll see, yeah. And so, you know, then I'm just yeah, realizing I forgot to export it to the right place. But now, so here that should be that. So here it is in all of its glory. You know, thanks for watching. If you made it this far in the video, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.